Okay, I call this meeting to order.
The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the City cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. This evening's invocation will be given by Mrs. Robin Margraf of Our Lady of Fatima Church.
Please stand for the invocation and remain standing. Councilmember Donchek will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of all creation, we stand before you on humble ground, mindful of our need for your guidance and wisdom. At a time when our nation once again grieves the loss of innocent life, we ask for your healing and comfort. May you help us all, from the everyday citizen to world leaders, rise above violence and hatred and seek always peace and reconciliation. As this meeting begins, we pray for each person in attendance. May we be mindful of the freedom we enjoy to engage in open and civil discourse. Help us to make just and fair decisions so that we may continue to build a strong and compassionate community. We thank you for our community and all who serve it, for those who teach in our schools and protect our streets, for those who work in our parks, on our beaches, and on our roads, for those who plan and those who build, for those who heal and those who counsel, and especially for those who govern, for all who live the best example of what it means to be a citizen. For these and all the burdens and hopes of our community, gracious God, heal our prayer. Amen.
And as we salute our flag, please keep in mind and thank all the veterans that we'll be honoring on November 11th. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Donchak.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Here.
Mayor Ward.
Here.
And Councilmembers Ham and Swartz are absent. First item on the agenda is a toll road update.
Mayor and Council, I don't have anything to add tonight to the report we've given previously.
Okay. The only update that I would give to the public is that TCA has canceled their November meeting, and we've also been notified that they've canceled their January meeting. So the only meeting I think they're going to have, I believe it's December 6th. So that just is a notice that you need to know. Thank you.
Next is presentation by Ahmed Abdu of Caltrans concerning the El Camino Real widening project.
Good evening, Mayor Ward, council members. My name is Ahmed Abu Abdu. I'm a Caltrans project manager for the I-5 South. I'm here today to present to you, let's see if this would work. Yeah, this should be fine. The El Camino Real curve correction project, which is a safety project that was initiated by Caltrans. The location is from north of Avenida Mendocino to south of Avenida Presidio. A quick overview of the project. Why is Caltrans doing this project? Basically, high accident rates were observed within the project limits. We determined that the site distance was a contributing factor for the accidents, and the curve correction addresses this by realigning and flattening the horizontal curve. To do this, enhancing the horizontal curve requires additional space along the northbound side of the I-5. We accomplish this by removing and replacing the existing retaining wall and existing sound wall, shifting all travel lanes towards the northbound side of the freeway. There was 36 accidents recorded over a 3-year period. The type of accidents observed were hit objects, rear end overturn, fatal accidents, and the causes were improper driver behavior, improper turning, speeding, influence of alcohol, and other types of violations. Most accidents occur during the day and in dry conditions. The project status is as follows. The project approved construction contract was in October of 2016. Construction activities began in January of 2017, and the target completion of construction is fall of 2018. The current construction status is approximately 50% complete time and dollars. The funding source for the safety project is from the State Highway Operation and Protection Program, the SHOP. The construction capital allocation was $11,633,000 with a total project cost, including support to prepare and bid the plans. Total is $17,603,000. This is a plan view of the prior to construction, and you can see clearly the El Camino Real bridge, and then north of that you'll see the darker asphalt concrete section, just to kind of orient everybody to the location of the project. This view is basically a elevation view looking at the bridge, looking westward. To the right is the northbound on-ramp from El Camino Real, and you can see here what I'm going to refer to later as retaining wall 100, which is this retaining wall, if you see where the mouse is, retaining wall 90, which is this retaining wall, and the existing steel girders, and you see in green here. This is a plan view of ongoing construction activities. This picture was taken basically at the conclusion of stage 1, which I'll refer to later. It's just as you see here, this is the new concrete pavement that was added from that butted into the existing northbound on-ramp from Mendocino. And you can see here the ongoing construction activities for the current construction stages. I'll refer to that even at a later slide. This here is a view of retaining wall 90. This is at the southeast quadrant of the project. This is the abutment of the bridge, and you can see here this green part is the existing steel girder. We will add 2 more girders to achieve the widening on the bridge itself, and then I'll show you other views with the ongoing construction activities. This is retaining wall 100, which is north of that location. This is El Camino Real, northbound, on-ramp to the I-5. North, yes. And again, this is the existing girder in green. 2 more girders are going to sit on this abutment. This is a view from retaining wall 90 looking at retaining wall 100, showing the existing construction activities. This is a view of retaining wall 100, and again, this is the bridge. Just for your orientation, this is retaining wall 90 at the tail end of this view. One more view of the basically the pedestals where the girders are going to sit on the abutment. This is retaining wall 90. Looking south from El Camino Real. That's a 3D view of the existing construction activities. This was taken during the initial stages of the construction of retaining wall 90. This is, the construction was done in 3 stages. Stage 1 concluded, and basically it added the pavement section that I referred to at the beginning of my presentation. Stage 2 is ongoing. It has 2 distinct stages, stage 2A and stage 2B. Stage 2A would finish the pavement section to the off-ramp. Stage 2B basically widen, build the retaining wall 90, widen the bridge, and build retaining wall 100. Stage 3, I'm sorry, the stage 2 is still ongoing right now, and stage 3 is the next stage. The work involved in that would be to move the median barrier to the new location and finish the job. By finishing the job, basically that curve would be flattened and giving more sight distance to the motorists traveling on that segment of the I-5. And this is the plan view of the after condition. When everything is completed, you can see how the cross-section of that freeway basically gets closer to the northbound on-ramp from El Camino Real. And same thing here, this would be the edge of retaining wall 100, and then retaining wall 90 would be, at this location. I'm gonna go through the changes in the signs in that section, as a result of this project. Going north is this way, southbound is that way. Northbound on-ramp from Mendocino is this on-ramp. We will remove the existing sign and install a new sign that will say only El Camino Real exit. Next, again, this is El Camino Real. To orient you correctly, this is the tail end of the northbound off-ramp to El Camino Real. And we will have a new sign there that says Avenida Presidio, and a butterfly sign in the median that will alert the motorists to the oncoming exits. This slide shows the sign to Avenida Calafia going southbound, and additional signage here on the northbound. Last but not least, the El Camino Real sign that replaces the existing one. And that concludes my presentation, and if you have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
So, there we go. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the project itself is $17 million. I'm assuming this has been a project this has been long desired by Caltrans. I have to bet that once it started getting heavy amounts of usage, even in the 80s, it's something that you identified. How long has this project been in the works, or at least something being considered for a change here?
So the accident data that triggered this project, basically the 3-year period, was from 2005 to 2008.
2005, 2008.
That was the basis that created the need for the correction. And then the programming cycle, funding, going through the project report and developing the plans, advertisement and awards, and then construction. We're in the middle of construction now. It takes a long time to go through the project development process.
It's a little ironic because this is actually the one element of the freeway that I never travel, because it's, you get off on El Camino Real to go to my home, and then I'm always getting back on anywhere else, but I never actually go, I mean, maybe once a year I'll go past that and not actually get off on the freeway there, so it's, I had to drive it, funny enough, to actually see what the context was there. Projected, I didn't see projected completion?
Fall of 2018.
Fall of 2018,
Right,
thank you.
towards the tail end of 2018.
This is off, thank you for coming. This is off topic, but since Caltrans is here. We've had a lot of residents interested in adopting the on-ramps and off-ramps, and there used to be a program Caltrans offered, and during the recession it was discontinued because of the training resources being curtailed. If such a thing exists, could you get in touch with our city manager and share that information with us? Because we do have a heavy volunteer community.
Absolutely. I'll contact our PIO and we'll get back to you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
So currently, do we have a sign in the middle of the freeway? in that area?
No.
Okay, so why are we moving one of the signs to the middle of the freeway?
The current MUTCD, the Manual of Uniform Transportation Devices, requires that this is a new manual that's it's not only nationwide, it's worldwide used, and all the transportation departments basically adopted it, and we comply with the requirements of that manual. Prior to that, there was no identified need for that sign to be there.
That particular sign?
Well, so there is the manual basically sets the rules to where to place these signs, whether on the sides or in the median, and the engineers determine exactly where, to follow the need from the manual requirement. They determine exactly where that should go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't, in the future, anytime the freeway is modified, we're not expecting the signs to be moved to the middle, or it just depends on
Depends on the
what
need.
the manual says?
Exactly.
Okay. In this project, is there any funding for landscaping?
Yes, it's minor landscaping that you will see at the northbound on-ramp, El Camino Real. And so if I go back, let's see here. So this wall, well, let me put a picture of. So the city chose to have the kind of masonry look of that wall, rather than an aesthetic treatment. We proposed actually to the city like a beach type aesthetic treatment, and it was declined. And the city chose to have this type of aesthetic treatment. And we will have the rock blanket at the bottom at both ends of the at the south part of this ramp, and then the north part. So if I go one more here, okay.
So there's 3 ramps at this bridge. There's an exit, southbound exit, which is just before it.
We're not
Which
touching
I don't
that.
think that's changing.
Right, we're not touching. We're only touching the southbound northbound off ramp and northbound on ramp. So this one, and this one. So this here, this is looking south. That's the northbound direction. The northbound off ramp to El Camino Real, we will have some aesthetic treatment here,
Okay.
and the northbound on ramp will have some aesthetic rock blanket and same kind of look to that retaining wall that you saw on the other one.
So there won't be any landscaping, it'll just be rock treatment?
Rock blanket. Yeah.
Do we still have any say on that?
Well, you had to say we circulated it to the city engineers and traffic folks.
And that would have had to have been prior to 2008, correct?
No. So before we finalize the plans, we always share with the city to get buy-in. We actually we shared with them the aesthetic treatment, the beach
Right.
layout basically, and they said they didn't want it, and we told them, basically this is what it's going to look like, and they gave us feedback of what their suggestions were, and we accommodate what suggestions they came back with. So it's an ongoing, all our project development processes are intermingled with the city requirements, and we share the plans with the city before we finalize everything.
It's just unusual that we didn't hear that, because there was landscaping taken out on this northbound on-ramp, but it's not going to be replaced.
Well, so two things. Basically, the drought situation that was that presented a special requirements statewide, and so we had to minimize the planted areas wherever possible. I'm not sure whether we're going to have like vine type. I don't think we will. Yeah, I don't think we will. The pictures I've seen is just rock blanket.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We have one card on this. Mr. Josh Hirschman would like to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor Ward, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, Councilman Bondomchik, thank you so much again for your participation and everything you're doing with regard to the tollway. It is so greatly appreciated. Our whole neighborhood can't thank you enough. We thank also Caltrans for being here tonight. I think it's pretty gutsy after this morning's news report that an ember from a flare from a contract, I don't know if it was your contractor or one of your own trucks, caused the OC Canyon fire. That was reported on KTLA this morning. So it's a big concern to us of building roads and repairing roads and what this does to a community, and obviously what it did to the OC Canyon fire. We'd also ask a question, and I know you folks, and I'm not putting you on the spot from Caltrans, but we'd love to know if the manual that you just spoke about to Mayor Ward calls for tolls, the amount of tolls to be properly displayed to anybody using a tollway. And I would suggest that you'd ride on the 73. There's no place that they tell you how much you're paying for tolls. So, and we understand that the tollway, the TCA builds roads, and then they turn them over to you folks as a gift. And with all due respect, that puts the onus on Caltrans, is my understanding, and I may be totally wrong, puts the onus on Caltrans to basically maintain the road, law enforce the road, whereas in most states, the tollways that they build a tollway has a contract to maintain the roads, and the tollway from the tolls has to pay for those things, and has to pay for the law enforcement for that particular road. Question and a query as to why in California that's not true, and they get to keep the tolls, but they throw the onus of upkeep and law enforcement to you folks at Caltrans. And what we ask, and what I would ask on behalf of, I know our neighborhood, would be, Caltrans, please don't accept any more gifts from the TCA. So with that, I thank you all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you. We had a lot of public interest in this project. A lot of it was because of the toll road. People wanted answered why we were doing it. So I appreciate you coming tonight to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just told, corrected, that there will be some palm trees on the northbound off-ramp. So some palm trees will be replanted there.
Thank you for that correction.
Okay. Next is a presentation by Samantha Thomas, Recreation Manager, regarding the Winter Recreation Magazine and new recreation software.
Good evening, Council. Samantha Thomas, Recreation Manager. I've come to you guys tonight to inform you about our new software system that we're rolling out. You may remember this came to you guys for approval about a year ago, and we're finally in place to roll it out. We've had a very outdated system for all of our online registration for classes, and the current system is expiring at the end of this month. So we have committed to Rec 1 through Civic Rec. It's been a fantastic load in on our back end with staffing. There's a couple of new features that are going to be offered through it, including new custom family accounts. If anybody's registered with recreation classes, there's a lot more capabilities online from searching perspective. You're going to be able to manipulate your own classes or your own family accounts a little bit easier rather than having to call the front desk to add a child or add a sibling or whatever it may be. There'll be a lot more ease for that. It's mobile. It can be seen on an iPhone, a mobile tablet, anything like that. There's a lot more capabilities in that sense as well. There's different payment plans that will be rolling out for camps. This will be a huge feature, as many summer camps are very expensive, and this will allow for auto pay through just like you may get through any other service online. And we will also be doing that for our jazzercise class, which has been with us for a number of decades. So they've been operating that on their own, but now we're able to bring it in-house as well. So some of those will be great customer features that we look forward to rolling out. There's also going to be new membership passes. So if you are a frequenter at our aquatics facility and you hold a annual pass or a seasonal pass, you'll be getting a key tag instead of the old-fashioned card that we've been printing out. So the key tags are displayed there, and that will be something that's included in that membership pass. Over the next several weeks, we will be rolling this out to all of our current customers that have passes, and it will be a simple, they swipe in and we will stop them as they come in and say, hey, as you come out, pick up your new pass and load it onto your keychain, and you'll be ready to go. We're going to make it as smooth as possible. There may be some holdup in terms of getting through the front desk as we learn our new point of sale system, and we do need to create new accounts for every single user. That's all of our swim users, all of our classes, all of our partners, AYSO, Little League, all of those sports groups will also have accounts. There'll also be a league management that will significantly help our league staff with drafting and doing placements and skills assessments. Those are going to be really exciting tools that will expedite our process through league management. And then on top of all that, we are rolling out our new magazine, so this is in conjunction with the winter magazine. This software goes live on Thursday. We're encouraging all residents and users to go online to explore the system, create their family account. You won't be able to register for anything until Wednesday of next week. That's when we start registration. But we want people to be very familiar with it, and if they have issues, we want them to call us ahead of time so we can walk them through that. We will have additional kiosks set up at the Aquatic Center as well. That's our high volume facility that sees a lot of patrons every day. So we'll have extra stations, extra staff on hand to ease this process. We're not the first city that's gone through this. There's a number of our fellow agencies in the area that have also gone with Rec 1, so we've been working closely with them on rollout. But to highlight the winter magazine, you'll be seeing this hit homes this weekend. It is featuring San Clemente Day, our 90th anniversary coming up in 2018. And special on the cover is a historic photo. This is fishing at the pier. I'm not sure what the date is. This was courtesy of the San Clemente Historical Society. We're very happy to have them support us in this event. We will be rolling out a whole day of activities on February 24th to celebrate San Clemente Day. And there'll be there's a feature article in this magazine, it's shown up on the screen, that gives a little bit more detail to the history of San Clemente, also what we'll be doing for San Clemente Day. And throughout 2018, we will be featuring a historic photo on the cover of each of our magazines. So you'll see this in the next 4 issues of the magazine. And that is the end of the presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Was Brian Brower involved in this?
Just a little bit.
Okay, because I'm seeing him, he's got your back there.
He does, yeah. This has been a huge process on the staff end. We have some upwards of 30,000 family accounts in our system right now that will be essentially wiped clean. So we've been doing on the staff end a lot of due diligence to clean up accounts, whether it's credits or balances that are due. And we've been going through that process since February, actually. And we've seen a significant amount of money donated to our Recreation Scholarship Fund, which is outstanding. It's a couple $1,000s that people have said, you know what, I don't need that $30 anymore. You guys can donate it. So it's been a good opportunity for us to clean up our system, also understand who's still participating and who's not, and how we can move forward with that as well.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the effort. Hope it's going to be trouble-free. We'll find out.
Okay. Next is presentation by Susan Parmalee, Executive Director of the Wellness and Prevention Center, concerning the White House Drug Policy Office Award to the Wellness and Prevention Coalition to prevent youth substance use in San Clemente.
Hi, it's great to be here to announce something really exciting. So I'm Susan, and I brought along our newest hire. We have a new full-time employee that will be helping to administer this grant. This is Lauren Gallegos, and she's going to present with me tonight. So what's really exciting about this grant is that it provides us a lot of training, and it already has over the past 2 years because we were a mentor organization. And we've been able to train adults, youth, all across the sectors that we're working with. And they help develop the strategies that we put into writing this grant. And the belief in that is if they give us the training and how to do the strategic planning, the assessment, and picking our goals, that we know what our problems are, so we know what's going to work to help solve them. So basically, these grants can run for 10 years. You get approved for the first 5 years, and unless you really do something pretty horrendous, you keep it. Our job is to not mess up, and we will not. We, in fact, have a lot of really great goals moving forward. And most communities that have these grants see major declines in substance use. This is particularly important because what we're seeing now is we're starting to see the analysis of the 2016 California Healthy Kids Survey, and unfortunately, Capistrano Unified School District, both for alcohol and marijuana use, were higher than the Orange County average. So this kind of is true throughout the coastal areas. So it's Laguna Beach Unified and Capo Unified that are above average in most of the substance use categories. So what the kind of the history of how we went about getting this grant is the San Clemente Collaborative that started about 10 years ago broke off with a youth coalition, and about 5 years ago, one of the goals was to both increase mental health and substance abuse solve some of the problems that we were seeing in town. So what the youth coalition broke off from that, and we kind of ran with making a project that could help with this issue, and that started the Wellness and Prevention Center. So we're providing services on San Clemente High School, the 3 middle schools, and now also San Juan Hills High School. So those are direct clinical mental health and substance use interventions with families and students. In addition to that, we have the second arm, which is prevention, which will be what Lauren's in charge of. And what we did is we decided to form a community-wide coalition to address the prevention efforts, because best practices have shown that the collaborative effort really works best for these kind of issues. So in order to qualify for the grant, you have to have all 12 sectors in the community involved in your assessment and planning and sitting at your meetings. So we have a really good youth leader right now, and she is a junior at the high school, and they're running a coalition on campus, which we hope over the next year to also move down to the middle school level. The City of San Clemente's been a great partner in this whole process, and we really appreciate that partnership. The Orange County Sheriff's Department helps us out. Mission Hospital and their Community Benefit Department always sits in on our planning efforts. We have the faith community led by the Table Church, and then we have the Rotary Club. We have NCADD, which is the National Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependence. They were our mentor organization and helped us get the grant. Community Outreach Alliance, which does really great things for our kids, also works on us with our strategies by providing healthy activities for the kids. And then Picket Fence Media, which is the SC Times, has been great in donating 2 PSAs a month, and also allowing me to write an opinion piece at the beginning of every month. And then the Outlets is a really great supporter. They're always on board with trying to help out as much as they can. And then the PTSA, we actually won a statewide PTSA award for our collaboration with the PTSA. First time I ever got to go to San Jose. That was really fun. And watching PTSA moms all party, and dads. And then we have a really good partnership with Capistrano Unified, and specifically Chris Carter at the high school, who really sits in and contributes all the time and goes to the district to make sure we're represented. So what we did over those 2 years of being a mentee is we completed a community assessment, and we developed our goals and strategies to address these issues. If anyone wants to read that 100-page narrative, just send me an email. I'll shoot it right over to you, and you can really see how we zeroed in on what's going on in the community. Oops, wrong one. So what we want our 2 main goals are to increase community collaboration. That means we really need to keep these relationships strong. And one of our really big targeted areas is going to be to increase participation participation from the Latino community. With 19% of the community reporting in the census that they're Latino, we really are going to increase our outreach efforts, and we are in the middle of writing a grant to Cal Optima that would cover a health educator to kind of liaison with that community and do more of our presentations. We do have one really great bilingual intern right now who is learning to do a lot of our presentations. Our second will be to reduce youth substance use, and you're required to choose at least 2 substances. Based on our assessment, we chose alcohol and marijuana. And we look at both usage rates and perception of harm, because what's really pretty sad is how low the perception of harm is for marijuana by our kids. They actually will tell you by 11th grade that, you know, marijuana can't hurt them, alcohol can. So, I mean, it's good on one hand that they think alcohol is bad, but they're still drinking it. But the fact that they really don't think marijuana is bad is sad, and it's a real reflection of the fact that the marijuana industry told us it was medicine. So what I'd like to do is introduce Lauren, and she is a master's in social work, and she is going to tell you a little bit about why she's doing this.
Thank you, Susan. So my name is Lauren Gallegos, and I have been in the prevention field for the last 3 years, but in the greater Orange County. I actually grew up here in San Clemente. I went to Ole Hansen, Short Cliffs, and San Clemente High School. I never thought I'd be back, but it's not a bad place to be back to. So I want to talk to you a little bit about prevention and why prevention is really important to me. And you can read all of our statistics, but I think that my stories might speak a little bit louder. When I moved to San Clemente in 1989, things looked a little bit different here, but it really was a great place to grow up in. I personally have, and professionally, seen the devastation that drugs and alcohol can have on individuals, families, and the community. At 11, I was first introduced to marijuana and alcohol, which is pretty young. I was a 6th grader at Short Cliffs, and a lot of my friends had already started using marijuana and alcohol. At that time, I had to make a decision about the friends that I was hanging out with and really decide if these were good influences on me. By high school, a lot more of my friends had started using marijuana on a regular basis and drinking on a regular basis, and then they began experimenting with other drugs. By my senior year in high school, I had several friends already using prescription medication. In 2010, we lost our first friend. Excuse me. I'm sorry, it's very difficult. Preston was 25 years old, and we never expected that we would lose a friend that young, and he overdosed. It was shocking, it was terrifying, but we thought that it was one of those chances that it probably wouldn't happen again. Over the next 4 years, it seemed like we heard of another person dying, and another person dying, and another person dying, and it all had to do with drugs, alcohol, and mental health issues. That's when I decided that I wanted to go into prevention to help people who are going to keep kids out of those positions that my friends had been in. In 2014, I lost another close childhood friend. I had just seen him that day. He played soccer with my husband, and that night he overdosed on heroin. And it was another tragedy. I really got into prevention a lot more at that time because I believe in it. I believe that children and parents and the community need to be educated, and they need to be educated early to help keep these kids safe. You think that after hearing about all these deaths and all these problems that these kids have had, that my friends would stop, but they didn't. And just a few months ago, I lost another childhood friend. And then a week later, my brother lost a childhood friend. It's been very difficult. And I know that the youth right now are not using opioids, but it doesn't mean that they won't later. Most of the friends, probably all of the friends that I have lost to the opioids started with marijuana and alcohol, and they started in middle school and high school. I was lucky. I made other choices, and I was able to stay away from those drugs, but unfortunately not all of my friends were able to. I feel that if we had prevention efforts at our schools, it would have helped us greatly. I believe that if we had the support to not only know that drugs are bad and to say no, but learn how to say no and learn why they were bad, that the lives could have been changed for some of my friends that I have lost. So I'm here to do prevention work in my city. I'm happy to be back and give back to my community, and it's very, very important to me, as you can see. And we really appreciate all the support that the city is giving this program. And we just need that continued support to ensure that our youth are safe and they're protected and they're educated. Thank you.
We are really lucky to have Lauren, someone who grew up here, understands the community, and understands. She's really, really good at connecting with kids. She's done a lot of prevention education in the districts above us through Phoenix House. So I'm really happy to welcome her to our program. So this really is a community program. This is a program that needs the support of the community. We have to every year have a dollar-for-dollar match to guarantee our funding. This includes our grant money, it includes volunteer hours, it includes in-kind donations, and we need that kind of support. We want everyone at the table. If you don't think you have anything to bring, I'm sure you do, and we can figure out what it is, so you just have to let us know. We really recommend following our Facebook and liking a lot of things on there, and our current campaign on Facebook has been to get parents to talk to their kids about drug and marijuana use, because still, up through high school, the number one deterrent to kids' use is their parents' opinion about the substance. So if it's made known over and over. So if you go to our Facebook right now, you can download a talk kit from drugfree.org, and we're linking to that. And we've had a really good response with a lot of good click-throughs and downloads. Also, you can sign up for our email that comes about twice a month now, and you can do that through the website as well. So again, we appreciate the support of the city and the entire community. We're here for any questions you have too.
Thank you for that. I want to congratulate you on that grant.
Thank you.
I think it's a great reflection of all the work that you've been doing, that you qualified for this. I remember a few years ago, you coming and asking the city for money. And then last year you came and said, we just want to thank you, but we don't need any more money.
Oh, no,
because
we still need it. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Not kidding.
Take it?
Yeah.
Well, last
You're
year
still supporting us. You are still supporting us.
we are, but
Yeah.
last year you didn't come in and ask for any increase, and so that's not common. Usually everyone comes in every year and does that. So I just want to say that this program's really seemed to have been taking off, and the kids are so involved in it, and I think that's a reflection of all the work that you've been doing. So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I look forward to bringing them more, because I think it's a really good skill for them to come and speak to you on the Planning Commission. So, and Lauren will be the one bringing them more in the future. So.
Great. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is an update on Planning Commission activities by Chairman Don Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Good to be back to brief you what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 months. Since our last time I talked to you, we've reviewed 23 agenda items and had 5 study sessions. Study sessions, one of them was a review of Commission best practices presented by BBK and the city planner, Robert's rules, and some current court cases that were involved with planning. It was excellent time. We did a housing element update and a housing element public workshop, and then went into another session on architectural review of Spanish colonial revival architecture. And then commenced a review of public murals to develop a city ordinance as directed by you, the City Council. We had a study session on that, and we'll dig into that after the first of the year. For the agendized items, of course, the Miramar Event Center, which you've now recently approved for the parking waivers, which were critical. We reviewed and approved 2 housing elements and recommended to the council amendments to the general plan and the zoning ordinance for the emergency shelter overlay, and that long slug fest that finally started in April of 2014. It finally got concluded with a housing element approved, and hopefully other clearances in the future. A long journey. We viewed 3 appeals by the outlets of San Clemente, 2 concerning temporary banner signs, and 1 was a question about process to their master sign program. 1 appeal you've heard. They're fun. And the other 2 were presented to the council on December 5th. So enjoy. We approved the first boarding house under our new ordinance for Joshua's house. And of course, as a traffic commission, we reviewed Several speed limit and traffic calming recommendations, nominally La Pata, Camino Rio, and North El Camino Real, which are kind of gateway areas to our city, which I think have turned out very well. And we looked through, approved 5 cultural heritage permits and several other permits in the overlay area and numerous other things, some are on your schedule tonight, parking agreements, and a distillery and a few other things. Future items, tomorrow night we'll be review the lifetime fitness application to renovate the Rancho San Clemente Tennis Club. It required a mitigated negative declaration, and so if you choose to agendize it, I'll send you my copy for a light reading. In December, we're reviewing the zoning ordinance updates concerning items identifying the housing elements such as density bonus, which were a fallout of the various reviews by HCD and getting our housing element finally approved. In December, also, we are scheduled to review the outlets of San Clemente freeway-oriented signs with its concurrent EIR that's about ready to be presented to us. So that's between now and December. Next year, we'll continue our review and building that ordinance with staff on public murals at your direction. Start looking at auxiliary dwelling units. I think you had a presentation and gave staff some guidance on that, and we'll start working with staff on that. We have to complete our amendments to the zoning ordinance for the general plan consistency. There's about 6 chapters to do there, 3 hard, 3 easy. And of course, you continue slugging along with specific plans for general compliance consistency also. Talk to the city planner, the coastal commission staff's about done with the review of our local coastal plan after a year and a half or so. And they might send their recommendations en masse to the coastal commission in February, at which time, of course, it comes back and we take it or leave it or whatever. So that's kind of an update on our local coastal plan. And that's what we've been up to for the last 4 or 5 months and what we have on our plate coming to us soon. Any questions?
That local coastal plan, that's not coming back to you before it goes back to the planning commission?
No, I think it's, you voted on that as a council almost 2 years ago this February, I think it was. We worked on it, 3 or 4 months before that. And so they automatically give themselves about a year waiver or whatever it takes to review it. It's been coming back in chapters to staff who've been feeding, arguing, and they've met several times with staff at the local coastal commission up in Long Beach. So it's my understanding they're about ready to finalize, and so our staff's been trying to defend us as best as possible. And ultimately, the staff takes our approved thing from 2 years ago and says to the full coastal commission, here it is. And our staff's been trying to engage to make sure everything was there that we can live with or whatever. So that's an update on that.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank
You've been busy. You can keep your doorstop for a while, though.
I'll put it on your doorstep.
No. Okay. Thank you, Don.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente but not separately listed on the agenda may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation. And I do have a few cards.
Okay. So I have 3 cards, and I would ask everyone to please come up. The first speaker will be Russell Sadat, Ruth Denault, and Clayton Robinson.
Hi, good evening. Russell Sadat. I live in the Villa Mora, in Rancho San Clemente, and tomorrow night, the Lifetime Fitness Project is going to be talking to the Planning Commission, and basically, we're very, very concerned about the scope of the project and the effect that it's going to have on Rancho San Clemente. It is not that we're against anything being there, it's basically the scope of the project. We live a little less than a mile from the site. Traffic is becoming more and more of an issue. It's pushing up into our area. And the proposed hours, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., really are unacceptable in a residential area. The 44,000 square foot gym, it's much larger than what was there. It's going to have a dramatic effect on the people of Rancho San Clemente. There has been almost no outreach on the part of the company to the people of Rancho San Clemente. There has been some outreach to the homeowners associations, and the homeowners associations have not communicated to the people that live there what is going on. So it's been under the radar. Another issue, it's very quiet up there, Vista, Montana, Calle del Cerro, from 7 to 7. It's really quiet up there. If they're allowed to be open from 5 to 11, that is going to have a dramatic impact on the quietness of the area. We've looked over all the reports. There are numerous inconsistencies in the proposed reports, including traffic studies and some other impacts. And if it is approved by the Planning Commission, I will be appealing it unless some concessions are made. The tennis center was just a great neighbor we've been here for 19 years, just a great neighbor, quiet, no issues whatsoever. And I really am trying to head off just a massive influx of a lot of stuff that's potentially coming down the pike with this. So, thank you.
Ruth Denault, followed by Clayton Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor Ward and members of the City Council and City staff. I'm Ruth Denault. I have lived in San Clemente since 1953 and have seen a great deal of change in this community. I am president of Casa Romantica Cultural Center and Gardens and was a founding board member when we began work about 1999. The city had bought the property previously with redevelopment funds and rented it to an event planner. And it was not well maintained. And when, fortunately, an anonymous donor came to the city with a gift of $1.25 million if it would become a cultural center, they started forming a board. There were 5 of us to begin with. Right away, there were 4. But we stayed with it, and we developed the board, and we raised, beyond that $1.25 million, we raised another $3.5 million in the first capital campaign in San Clemente that was ever done other than for a church. And even though it was a recession, we were successful because we had friends and we were believed. So it is my great pleasure to represent Casa Romantica to you here this evening. It is a treasure to the community of San Clemente and the surrounding area. Our programs have grown unbelievably, and our membership has grown 9 times in the 4 years that our current executive director has been with us, Veronica Schmitz, who is with us this evening. We invite the community to view the excellent art exhibition that is at the Casa Romantica right now. It is art from early California, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and it is truly awesome. And it's something that none of you should miss because it is very special for us to have this exhibition. We're very proud of that. We also were honored by Arts Orange County, the official arts organization of Orange County, as the Arts Organization of the Year in 2017, and we're very proud of that. We have about 900 members. We have about 100 volunteers, and all of our programs for the children are free. And we have a music academy, which is just exceptional for 2 weeks, and we also have a dance academy, which is wonderful. And once a month, on the first Sunday of every month, we have a wonderful donor, Mrs. June Yoder, who gives us enough funds so we can put on a wonderful free day for the whole community. And social media, which I'm so amazed at, we have hundreds and hundreds of people that come to these events the first Sunday of every month. And it would be wonderful if you could join us and see, because each month we have a special program. They are not the same. Each one is different and very unique and special. We have many activities during the day and the evening each week, and our parking lot is in great need of refurbishing. It has been quite a few years since it was put in. It is, the driveway is asphalt, but the parking lot is decomposed granite. And it has washed away deep ruts. It is unsightly, unsafe for walking, difficult for parking, because you can't see the markings of the parking sites very well. And it is truly not anything that any of us would be proud of. So we ask you this evening to consider the parking lot that has been installed, that we now ask the City of San Clemente, who is the owner of Casa Romantica, to consider rehabilitating the parking lot and making it safer and a matter of pride for the people of San Clemente. We appreciate your cooperation and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to direct staff to agendize this topic, and the executive director and president were kind enough to invite us down to take a look at the parking lot right now. And what's characterized as a rehabilitation project is really a completing the parking lot project, because half of it, as Mrs. Denault mentioned, is already asphalt that's been color toned to be historically correct, and then you've got the decomposed granite, the DG. And so what I'd like to do, and the other thing is, it's been 15 years since we thought that was a good idea, doing the DG parking lot, and a lot of things have changed, times have changed, the use of the CASA, has changed. So I'd like to take a look at it. And one thing I was thinking about this after we had our tour this morning, and Councilmember Brown is going to remember this. In our long-term financial plan back in fiscal year 2013, there was a line item for $350,000 for Casa Romantica parking lot surfacing. And so we have a history of partnership with you, and financial partnership with you, and I'm also thinking that was 5 years ago, and parking lots need tender loving care just like other infrastructure. So long story short, what I'd like to do, if I have your agreement, is direct staff to agendize the item, and it would have three components. One is, what would be the process necessary to complete the parking lot and rehabilitate it, considering coastal commission, considering historical, cultural issues, and maintenance, and the process that would involve the planning commission. Two, financial implications in any way we might partner with Casa Romantica. And then three, a timetable so that the Casa could understand what would be involved in this project if it saw the light of day.
Go ahead.
So I'm supportive of your request. I'm sorry, I moved over here because I wanted to see Ruth.
I know, we have so much.
We have to move around. I'm supportive of the request. Are you thinking about the financial discussion in context of long-term financial planning discussion?
Well, because of the 3-minute limitation,
We
the
can't
board
really
has
go
a-
too far. I'm just asking
Yeah.
for clarifying.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
board
whether it's
has
time
some
to talk
ideas
about
about finances, and based on the condition of the parking lot, I think the first order of business is to agree that DG might have been a good idea 15 years ago, but maybe this idea we have trouble with DG on the beach trail, and that's a flat surface.
So I'd be supportive of having a discussion about the parking lot, the cost, board
The
agreement, all
timing.
these things sooner. And then whatever the result of that, we incorporate that in the long-term financial planning
Great.
process.
Sure.
So it would be, because we don't want to be in the middle of the LTFP talking about, well, we don't know what the costs are, we should add a line item just in case it comes out at $250,000 or something like that. So,
Actually, that's a great idea, because that creates kind of a framework of timing to get back to the council.
it creates the timeline, because
Yeah.
we're going to be doing that in the spring. So I'd be supportive of talking about number one, which is what would it look like, what's the
So
cost
a
environment.
staff report on that, great.
Plus, shouldn't there be a review of what our contract is and what our part is? Because I'm not exactly sure what the city's part is in that.
We'll make that a component of the staff report.
Yeah, yeah.
And also originally why we did what we did, and
Yeah, the
As much
history.
historical
Yeah.
facts as we can bring back.
yeah, whatever you can find.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
And also, if you could look back at I'm sorry, the long-term, 2012 long-term financial plan, that $350,000, it was budgeted, and I don't know if that was, I'd like to know the circumstances there and what the CASA got for $350,000, because that's,
Right, and how that came about.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're
agendizing
agendizing
that.
a discussion.
Yeah, with those
History.
elements, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your stewardship and your inspiration every day. Yeah, every day it gets better at Casa
And
Romantica.
congratulations on the award also.
When does that art exhibition end, by the way? February 18th.
I wanted to
Okay.
know that also, thank you. Clayton Robinson?
I actually want to address how the city can make more money. I want to address short-term lodging units, and I'd like to specifically ask the council to reconsider the boundaries of the STLUs in the North Beach area, specifically to include the Buena Vista Street. My name is Clayton Robinson, and we have been in San Clemente since 2002. Short-term lodging units, STLUs, I'd like to contend, are a financial benefit for the city. The city collects 10% of all rental fees, including cleaning fees and any other fees. Besides that, it can be lost, but when people come to San Clemente and rent in a short-term place like that, the first question they ask is, where do I shop and where do I go to eat? Because they're not planning on being domestic. It's their vacation, and so they spend significant amount of money, probably far more money in their time in the city than they do actually on the rental, far more than the city would get. But that benefits the city because they pay taxes in the restaurants, they pay taxes in the stores, they go up to the new unit, the outlet center, and so on and so forth. We understand the need to restrict STLUs to appropriate areas and to limit disturbing strictly residential areas that are composed primarily of single-family homes. We understand that. But the areas that are allowed should be compatible both with the area and would draw people into the community. The problem is that the North Beach focused area, if you actually look at it on a map, it comprises mostly commercial areas. There are no houses in that area whatsoever. So it looks like a lot of area on a map, but it's worthless because it doesn't comprise where houses would be compatible. And the few houses that are actually in the study are actually in a residential area where it's primarily single-family houses. And in addition, they're not on the beach. There'd be a walk to the beach, so they're not necessarily drawing people. People who want to come to San Clemente want to come where they can see the beach or be close to the beach in an area that's compatible. I would like you to consider adding Buena Vista to the focus area. Buena Vista is mostly condos and apartments, which are compatible with STLUs. They are not very few single-family houses on that street, almost all apartments and houses. Secondly, apartments don't pay any occupancy tax to the city, and the occupants may or may not shop primarily in the city because they're shopping from work or wherever else. The Ocean View units draw visitors in to the city, so half of Buena Vista is on the ocean front, and those units draw people in. What's important is we own several units on that street that we rent, and what we found is that 80% of the people who come to us are coming from outside of the state. And so when they communicate with us about possibly coming to rent a unit, they tell us they're looking at us or San Diego or Malibu. They're not looking at us versus the hotels. So if the city's plan puts us out of business next year, those people are not going to come to San Clemente. They're going to go to some other city that is more compatible and desires those units to come. Those will be significant lost funds to the city. Our units alone on San Clemente will presently provide between $15,000 and $20,000 every year in taxes. That's just our units, and there's...
I need you to wrap it up.
I am. I'm trying. I'll real quick.
Your time is out.
Okay, sorry. And so if we close that down, we lose that resource for the city. So please find the balance between protecting residential areas and including areas that are compatible and will provide new visitors into the city and benefit for its citizens.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was our last card.
Could we have a motion to waive reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances?
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Brown, second by Councilmember Doncheck. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0.
Closed session report, city attorney.
Thanks. There's no reportable action taken. I should note that I, because of a prior representation of the plaintiff in the Villa San Clemente case, recused myself, and special counsel substituted into that session also conveyed notice that there was no reportable action taken on that case.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion unless council, staff, or the public request removal of an item for separate discussion and action. The public has requested the removal of item 6B3.
Does council have any item to pull? No?
I only had one clarifying question about, is it 6B3-4? And it was just a clarifying question, but we can move the balance and I can chat about it.
Okay, so motion to move the balance.
Second.
Second by Doncheck. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Who
Tim
seconded
Brown.
that?
Brown motioned it.
I
took it as a motion also.
I'll move the balance.
Stand by that motion.
I will
Second
own
by
that.
Doncheck. All in favor is passed 3-0.
So the clarifying question I had was about 2340 South El Camino Real, the Mizokami Sports Therapy. In it, you had, the minutes had Brad Malamud acting as an attorney for the appellant, who has offices in nearby, noted to the date, and not been a parking shortage. Was Brad representing the appellant in that situation, or did he simply offer an opinion? Do you remember that?
I don't recall, no.
Because I believe that Don might be able to help with that.
Perhaps Commissioner Brown can answer the question.
Yeah, speak of them. Could you clarify the mic for me?
He was there as an interested party for another reason that night, the appeal. He just offered an opinion on his own. He was not representing the Sports Center at all.
Only reason I raised the question is because you have Mark McQuire, who is listed as representing the applicant, and then you have Brad Malamud, attorney for the appellant.
Yep.
And so just purely from...
We need to correct those minutes when we get to them, because they haven't come to, they come to you before we get to them.
Well, I would just say that Brad offered an opinion, but certainly isn't the attorney for the
That's
appellant
correct.
in the case.
That is
Okay,
correct.
if you could just make that clarification, I'll move.
I will do that.
Oh.
We still have another part. So, Zen Wu?
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Just if I could clarify something. I pulled this item. I can move this item. Zen, did you want to speak about this particular item?
He pulled
Oh,
it
you
first.
did? Oh, okay. My apologies. Okay. I didn't. I thought.
We waited for you.
Oh,
He
my
pulled it
apologies.
first. That's okay. So,
Go ahead.
Zen, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Zeng Wu. I'm a resident of the city of San Clemente. I also serve you as a planning commissioner. On October 18, Planning Commission approved the Cultural Heritage Permit 16304 with a 5-2 vote. And I believe that permit was issued in error, and I urge you to review it or pull it tonight. On October 20, I sent you an email requesting you to pull it from the minute. This is the email. I'm not going to repeat it. I assume that you have brought it at least. So the only thing I want to add to it is, if you look at this chart, it says the deck is not permitted to have any maximum height encroachment. The thing I want to add it to the further down on the same chart, the roof deck is singled out. It says not permitted to have the maximum projection above height limit. Not only it's not permitted, it's a little more restriction, because everything else is not permitted to encroach too. City planner. This is the legislative intent. We'll come back to it in a few seconds. And this is the technical detail of how to measure and how to apply the plate line height limit. We'll come back to it too. Amber, Mrs. Amber Gregg, city planner, responded to you with her opinion, with a supporting exhibit from the architect of the project, Mr. Michael Luna, the architect. This is the exhibit of the applicant's understanding, and the city planner agreed with that. And the one thing I want to like to point it out is we're not talking about this plate line. We're talking about this higher plate line underneath the flat roof deck portion. The architects indicate this is the 26 plate line, and that is not true because this does not meet the requirement of the measurement by our code requirement. The correct measurement, which the architect did not dispute in the planning commission meeting, is like this. The plate line is measured from the average elevation of original grade up to the plate line. Just so you know, plate is the actual 2x4 or 2x6 studs horizontally put on top of the studs to support horizontal structure. Sorry, thank you. Like such a roof beam and rafters and trusses. So please take note that the parapet is already excluded from measurement. So what the exclusion, we'll come back to the exclusion Amber referred to. The exclusion, what that says is anything above this plate line, including sloping roof, parapet, or gable end, are not to be measured for the purpose of plate line measurement. What is not excluded is the application of the plate line height limit. So the building in MU 3.0 and MU 3.3, the downtown area, the most sensitive area in town, they are subject to two height limits. One is top roof, which is 33 feet. And the second one is the plate height limit, which is 26. This building design exceeds the 26 plate line height limit by 30 inches.
So can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So are you saying the way that it was measured, because it wasn't measured from the original grading, that the plate line is actually 28.6 and not at 26 feet?
It is 28.6.
Okay, so that's where the discrepancy comes in that you're
No,
questioning?
there's no discrepancy. There's no dispute about this number. The applicant acknowledged this one.
So is the top of roof and the roof deck then built upon the 28.6?
The top roof is separate from 20. They are separate height limit.
Right.
The top roof, the project is at 33.
I'm just trying to figure out why I want to know why the council should call this up. Is it because the plate line is not being measured correctly?
No, it's because this building exceeds the building height limit. It exceeds the plate line height limit.
By how much? What is the
by
actual?
30 inches, plus minus.
30 inches?
Yes.
So what would the height limit be?
The height limit would be 26 feet maximum.
For the top of roof?
For the plate line. The top roof is a 33, which the project is at 33. That's okay.
I'm still not understanding why, if the project meets the roof height, why it should be called up if it's at 33 feet.
It meets the top roof height limit, but it does not meet the plate line height limit. There are two height limits that's
Okay.
applicable.
So
Amber offered an explanation. She said the plate line height limit is not applicable here.
Okay.
That's her statement. I appreciate that effort because this makes all the discussion very simple. So all we need is to look at this. The plate line height limit does not apply to roof decks. She cited the code requirement saying features excluded from measurements under this definition shall include gable ends, sloping roofs, parapet walls, and other vertical extensions.
Okay. So why does that not include a rooftop deck? If it's a parapet
Because
wall?
what it says is it's excluded from measurement. It's not excluded from the application of the plate line height limit. Think about it. If she continued to say that roof deck has a parapet, that means roof decks are not subject to the plate line height limit. Now, because we listed the gable ends, sloping roofs, and parapet walls in a similar fashion, they're all grouped together. If the roof massing underneath the parapet is not subject to plate line height limit, then the roof massing underneath sloping roof is not subject to plate line height limit.
Zen, these are all arguments you made during the planning commission meeting, is that correct?
It's just more clear today.
Okay, and it was all on tape, it was all in the record. You felt the need to bring it to the council again. Why?
Because it's clearly that Amber's interpretation is not correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll hear from staff really quick on that. I don't know. Amber's not here, so I don't really know what Cecilia can offer.
Maybe, do we?
Cecilia wrote the memo.
Oh.
I mean, with the admin.
Okay. Thank you, Zen.
Thanks. Oh, okay. So what would you like to know?
I'm having trouble between the plate line and the roof line, and I definitely want to give Zen Wu some credit here because he is an architect and he's on our plan commission, and he's been very instrumental in trying to keep the height limits in our MU3 zone in downtown. So this is very important to me and to a lot of other people. But I'm not understanding this roof deck, and I know they're controversial. I just don't understand this plate line part.
Sure. So as I understand it, Commissioner Wu, has identified two height limits that he thinks applies to the project. One is the plate line height limit, and the other is the maximum height of the building, or in his illustration, the roof. The plate line height limit, as far as we're concerned and we interpret the zoning ordinance, the plate line height limit does not apply to roof decks. So in this instance, there is only one height limit that's applicable, and that's the 33-foot height limit of the zone. And the reason why we believe that the plate line height limit does not apply is because the code says that it specifically excludes design features from the plate line limit that are subject. It excludes design features from the plate line that are subject to the 26-foot height limit, including parapet walls and vertical extensions. Roof decks have parapet walls and other vertical wall extensions to meet building and safety regulations, so that means roof decks aren't subject to the plate height limit. But they do have to comply with the 33-foot top of roof height limit. And just to give you some purpose and intent, the plate line definition was added to the zoning code in 2015 when the city was making amendments to the ordinance to be consistent with the Centennial General Plan. The intent was to apply plate height limits in a way that discouraged massive structures and encouraged more pitched roofs. So we believed it was important to exclude the plate line height limit or exclude roof decks from the plate line height limit.
What would be the practical effect of not excluding it?
Well,
effectively a prohibition on roof decks? Or at least making it very difficult?
Yeah, it would make it very difficult to have those types of design features integrated into structures.
Unless you move the building down 5 feet and compressed it so that you could do that.
Yes, correct.
In that zone, are we only supposed to have 2 stories?
We're getting close here. So we had a public comment off agenda, which is fine. We can ask staff for clarification.
I'm asking her how many stories are in
Yeah,
this zone.
thanks.
Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. No, just to
Okay.
clarify what the issue is, and then,
No, I'm really trying hard to not agendize something that we don't have to, but I
yeah,
don't
so,
want to discuss it.
to ask for clarification on the issue and.
Because to just get little snapshots of the staff report isn't allowing us to do our best work.
We don't want a hearing. Oh, no, Mr. Wu, you can't speak again, or then we're really going to have trouble. So after Cecilia, that's definitely got to be it, Mayor.
Am I allowed to ask how many?
You can ask for
Okay, because
clarification
this
of the
will help
staff.
me
It's
know
supposed to be
whether I need to
brief.
agendize or
Yeah.
not. How many stories are we supposed to have? What's the maximum stories in this area? Do we know? Is it 2 or is it 3
Yeah,
stories?
the code or limits it to 2 stories. The project proposes 2 stories, so it complies with the standards in the zone.
Okay, well, I'm going to request to get called up because there was a discrepancy of whether this is 2 or 3 stories, and I need that clarified. Because something that wasn't mentioned.
I'll respect that because you're the mayor, but, you know, and I also echo everything you said about Mr. Wu. I think you're one of our very strong planning commissioners. At the city council level, if there's a vote, such as there was at Planning Commission, and the minority disagrees with the vote, they don't have the option to bring it back up again. That's why there's multiple people in the decision-making pool. And we're held to that. So if it's a 4-1 vote and I don't like what my colleagues did, I just have to understand that we had a difference and move on. And that's, the spirit of that is collaboration and also running a business meeting. So I'm inclined, knowing that the vote on this was 5-2, and not understanding. I did go look at the property, and I can't say enough how much I appreciate your expertise, but I'm going to go with the Planning Commission's recommendation on this, mainly because they spent quite a bit of time on this, as we expect them to, and the majority felt that it landed in a certain place.
Well, I think the question before us is the mayor wants to agendize it, and she can't do so unless we choose not to agendize it. Is that correct? So
Should I give a reason why I want to agendize it?
I would certainly like to, because I'm inclined to pass it as.
I know.
You can sit down, Commissioner Wu.
Okay.
Thank you. I find the advocacy on one of our planning commissioners and minority and bring up the council to be unusual. It'd be the kindest term I could find for it. And absent a real good reason why we should be so unseemingly strict on this item, seems odd to me, as if a rooftop deck is going to turn into an additional commercial space. I'm having a hard time understanding why we need to delay the project, spend another whole council meeting talking about this definition, when in fact it really doesn't have what I believe to be an incredible material effect on the density, intensity, and use. It really doesn't. I mean, there's decorative features, so unless you provide a compelling reason, I think the project ought to go forward.
I could point you to, I don't know if I can figure out what page this is on. Do you have this? You probably don't have what Amber gave us? Okay. There's 1 story, 2 story, then there's a large, what they're calling an attic, that was not mentioned during the Planning Commission meeting, I understand. I looked at the minutes until later, and then this rooftop deck is put on top of that, and this is a space that I'm questioning why it's being built this way. So technically, is this a 3rd story? That's what I'm having trouble with. And if it is not with the plate line, then I think I would like that verified.
I think that these are all questions that could be answered prior to this
I
context.
tried to get it and I didn't get it, so I'm sorry. I did call planning and I didn't
Well,
get it.
if these are questions that need the answers, then we need to take a meeting to answer it. This is frustrating.
It is.
Because I don't believe that this is an appropriate use of the Planning Commission's powers. I don't believe so. I think if the council wants commission to do so and to bring it up, then we should do so, but not by the planning commissioners. Anyway, I respect your desire to want to clarify the item. I just don't feel that, I don't know.
Well, I need the measurement, I would like the measurement clarified,
Okay.
only
Then
because
I
it's
won't
been
oppose
so
the call-up.
important. Thank you. And it's come up in other projects, and it's not that I'm against it, certainly if it meets it, but I want to make sure that the spirit of the law is being followed.
All right, then let's hear from the applicant, because I think
Well, aren't we going too far now?
We don't want to have the hearing if,
Okay.
we don't have the hearing before the hearing.
Okay. So I would ask you to please step in at any time if we're going too far.
Okay, so the applicant can make a comment on the matter.
Okay, you
but
have to
it's
come up to
Whether
the-
it should be heard, not
But we
whether
haven't
it's-
voted officially on it.
No, we haven't, but this is...
This is highly unusual.
No, you know what, I was on the planning commission,
So
and
was
I'm
I.
sorry, I was asked by council members to let them know if anything, was unusual, or if I was concerned on something, so I don't think it's unusual for them to reach out.
Good evening. As you can see, I am the applicant, the owner. And just to clarify your question about a third story, it is not a third story because it has only 6.5 feet clearance. So basically, that's for equipment, air conditioning, water heater, because basically I'm trying to use the square footage of first floor, second floor, and I don't like to have machines other than the excuse me, the compressors or the HVAC units mounted on the deck.
I understand that.
So it will never be a 3-story because it's not legal. It's an attic space, it's a equipment, storage, so I can use my garage.
Can he address the plate line measurement? That's getting too far into it.
Whether it deserves, whether it deserves further attention by the council, yeah.
I've been
You can
with this
speak for or
project
against
for
you.
5 years. 5 years. It seems like I want to build the Empire State Building over there. And it doesn't make any sense. I understand it's downtown. I started this project when it was allowed 3 stories. We designed with Luna the 3 stories and commercial. Then the city council changed, no more 3 stories. Here we go. I dump a ton of money there, and here we are again. It was approved in the planning commission. They all disagree, even Chris, well, I don't remember his last name now. He wrote the code. It's not, I'm meeting the high limit, the 33. I am not going 36. It was questioned why I have an elevator. The answer is because I'm not getting any younger. So by the time I finish this, I am almost 60. I started 5 years ago. I had some hope to get it when I'm 60. Now I might get it when I am 65.
Can you tell me that whether this tower on top has been eliminated?
What tower?
The tower on top of the,
No, that's the tower for the elevator.
it's still there.
Oh, yeah, and it will remain there.
So that is higher
That-
than the 33 feet.
Exactly, but that's allowed in the code. The high limit for that tower is allowed in the code.
You know what, it has to be called up. There's
Please
too many
write.
questions on it. Especially with the tower. I was told that,
I mean,
we
but
thought that
once-
was eliminated.
It was passed by 5 against 2.
I
So
understand
where's,
that.
and it's no tricking here. I am within, if Chris Wright, who wrote the code, is in favor.
But
wha-
now you're not in the height, the 33 feet because of the tower.
I know, but it is in the code that
I
the
need
tower.
that, I will
Okay.
need that clarified.
Okay.
I think that's
She
fair to
might,
the
she
neighborhood.
might be able to clarify that.
Aren't we going
I
way
think
too
we've
far?
framed the issue
Yeah.
Ma'am,
pretty
it's
good.
5
But no.
years. I just need to move on, and I understand your concern, and I did everything by the book. I don't try to cheat anybody here. Sure.
Hi, Mayor Ward. I just pulled up the development standards for the zone, and it's 33 feet to the top of the roof and then 39 feet for an elevator. So it does comply with the development standards for the zone.
Okay, and so that's because that's in a mixed use?
I think that's
Zone?
right, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, with
All I
that
would ask, Mayor,
clarification.
is that we bring it back for the very next meeting,
No.
and we put it on the first part of the agenda, and we get this thing resolved one way or the other.
And I'm going to oppose.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's in the height, but,
Yeah.
we need to be careful with that.
Thanks, Joanne. This would need to be a public hearing. I think it need to be noticed before the council hears it again. yeah.
Oh, okay, so how long?
It would be a month.
A month?
Do it for the next meeting. Do we have 3 weeks in between? Do you have a calendar?
Cecilia, please, please be quiet in the audience, thank you. Staff feels that this meets, this was measured correctly, and this is right.
That's correct. The roof deck is not subject to the plate height limit. It is subject to the overall building height limit, which it does comply with, and because it has an elevator component, there is an additional height limit, and it complies with that.
Okay.
So according to your opinion, it complies with every single height limit we would ask it to?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And every builder that comes in for these same standards would receive the same treatment?
Absolutely.
Mayor, it's your call, but I'd
No.
like to get this done tonight.
I'm not going to call it up, but I am concerned, I'm concerned about the roof decks. I'm not sure that parapet walls are just a design element.
Then
but
may I
won't-
recommend that we allow this one to go, and then
Yeah.
we bring back the question on this very part of the code for clarification. So,
I would
this
like
gentleman has
that.
done everything we've asked him to do according to our current code's interpretations. If we have a problem with the code as written, let's ask the planning commission to take up the item. I don't know, Lori, if that's something you would be supportive of, but I certainly don't want to wait a month just on this.
I agree, yeah. I won't support calling it up because
No,
there's just not enough.
I'm fine. I think it got clarified. I wish my questions could have been answered today, but they weren't. This is important for the neighborhoods that we really hold the line on this, and so that's why I'm doing this. But I do think, and I will request that the planning commission look at this because of the concerns of a couple of our planning commissioners, that these parapet walls, I'm not really sure if those are a design element and they're getting this exemption from the plate line, and I'm not sure that they deserve it. So I would like clarification on that and the plan commission to look at it.
So with that, I will.
we'll move it.
Okay, you move the item, I'll second it, and with the request that we ask the planning commission to take up and relook at this interpretation.
Okay. So,
I'm
motion.
moving, let's move the minutes first.
Yes. No,
Yeah, we're moving 6B.
yes, we're just moving this part. So, motion by Ward, second by Brown, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0.
And let the minutes reflect the losing that comment about Brad Malamud, that, you know.
And then, James, are we clear on what I just requested? So there's obviously some dispute from the planning commission, a minority, but it also has created some questions here. I know we've had a memorandum that's clarified this, but ultimately, I think what I'm looking for are really what are the implications of this? Can it be manipulated? Can it be worked so that it's going to cause problems with what we perceive to be the issue with that area? So that's, I think, the answer. That's the overall question we want.
We understand.
Thank you.
The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, City Council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. This evening's public hearing is to consider amending the code of the City of San Clemente regarding proposed rate modifications for the water utility.
Good evening, Eric Sund, Assistant City Manager. So a little bit of deja vu as we've come to the council a number of times and presented the cost of service study, the progress and the results, and finally the adoption of a water rate structure. The 218 noticing occurred, so tonight, as part of that process, you have the public hearing. I'll be very brief with regards to the core reasons behind the water rate study. Two main issues. One was to stabilize rates, the other was to improve fixed cost recovery. When we did this study, we had objectives which were obviously the simplification of the rate structure as well. That's why we presented and council adopted a uniform rate structure. We feel this is a very fair and diligent water rate that we've proposed. We've had it run through legal a number of times, and legal has blessed it. So with that, I'll end my staff report. As you see in the agenda report before you, the recommendation is to open the public hearing, receive comments, close the hearing, and then consider and have the city clerk tally the potential protests. And then if no majority protest exists, introduce ordinance number 16 24/7. And so with that, I'll stand down and let the public hearing start.
All right. We have cards. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I really need you to do this. I'm going to call 3 names at a time. That means you come up and you stand behind the person that is speaking. I'm not going to let that person start speaking till the other 2 are behind them. And that is so that we get this meeting going. The first speaker will be Marilyn Mogul, followed by Kathleen Bruin, followed by Bill Rhodes. Ms. Mogul, if you can just wait one moment. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Mogul, and I live here at San Clemente. Excuse me. I am an 80-year-old retired widow. I live alone. I live on the 2nd floor of an apartment building. I have very kind and generous landlords who have do not want to raise the rents. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, with trash and water rates being raised 17%, that has not been passed on to us. But now, with all of the other rates that look like they're going to be raised, for the first time, I will be asked to be paid a percentage of the water. I don't have a dishwasher. I don't have a washing machine. I have to use public facilities. I don't have a yard at all because I'm on the 2nd floor. So my use is very minimal. I live with a very tight budget on Social Security, and it's very difficult to be able to maintain any lifestyle when prices continue to go up. Everything goes up. The landlords have had everything in regards to maintenance go up, and they have chosen not to raise our rents. I would like to keep it that way. I would hope that you would consider the seniors who are on those limited funds when you start talking about raising the rates. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Bruin, and I am representing the RSCCA, standing in tonight for RSCCA President Vonnie Barnes. I wish I had videos or slides to show you, but I do not. On behalf of all homeowners associations, Vonnie has written this. The city's proposed commercial uniform rate for potable water and HOAs at $4.05 a unit, flat rate, beginning January 1st, 2018, is unfair to HOA residents who pay 3 water use bills. The proposed single-family residential rate of $4.17 per unit for their home address, plus the city demand management rate. The proposed commercial uniform rate of $4.05 a unit for their master association, plus a city demand management rate, and the proposed commercial uniform rate of $4.05 per unit for their sub-association, plus a city demand management rate. The proposed commercial uniform rate for potable water at $4.05 a unit is 41.6% more than the current rate of $2.86 a unit. And the proposed commercial uniform rate for reclaimed water at $2.66 per unit is 12% more than the current rate of $2.38 a unit. Cost for 2-inch meters go from $58.73 a month to $69.70 a month, an increase of 18.9%. Costs for the 4-inch meters go from $172.45 a month to $254.07 a month, an increase of 47.3%. RSCCA's current monthly water bill is $13,815. With the proposed rates, the bill would be $16,095, an increase of $2,288 a month, plus the city demand management rate. These unfair rate increases are not proportional to rates assigned to residents in other customer classes. RSCCA respectfully requests that the city implement a 5th customer class titled Homeowners Associations, Reduce the proposed commercial uniform rate of $4.05 a unit to $3.20 a unit, which is a 12% or 34-cent increase from the current rate of $2.38 a unit. Please implement HUO residential rates that are fair. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Rhodes. I live in San Clemente. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I submitted a quite lengthy protest letter, and I have a 3-minute opportunity to review it, so I'll try to be brief. I represent myself as a San Clemente resident and also the president of the Pacific Shores HOA, which is part of Rancho San Clemente. My first protest has to do with the fact that the rates that are being generated will far exceed the amount that's premised by the study. If you read the study, it says in year 1 there will be a 12% increase in revenue. Well, in our neighborhood, using the same exact amount of water that we used last year, it'll be a 37% increase. Additionally, for a single-family resident, using the example in the study, the increase is 30%, not 12%. I reviewed the entire system, and the increase is 21% rather than 12%. This discrepancy continues through all 5 years of the study. So let me try to explain my process here. Pardon me. I have a degree in chemical engineering, but I am not a water systems engineer. So I can't comment on their methodology for calculating these rates. But I can comment on a basic requirement of engineering, and that is to always check your work. The term that I like to use is, do the numbers shake hands? So what I mean in this case is, if you take the rates that are proposed in the study, multiply them by the usage and the number of meters, does the amount of revenue that gets generated equal the amount that's premised in the study? The answer to that is no. The numbers do not shake hands. In fact, they're not even close enough to wave to one another. If you look at page 20 of the report, table 2-6, you have the revenue projection for the increase. The total for the 5-year period is $3,076,000. The actual amount is almost $5.1 million. It's a $2 million overage of what the premise of the study is, a 65% increase. So I imagine you're saying, hey, I don't know this guy, he's just coming off the street. Why should I believe him? So I have a specific request. I would ask for you to have Carollo to repeat my analysis. Use the projected usage, multiply it by the rates, take the number of meters, multiply it by the meter rates, and add them together, and they will get the same numbers that I come up with. My second request would be, following that analysis, to reduce the rates so that they meet the amount that's being premised. And then finally, 2 years from now, nobody's going to remember what these premise numbers were. So my request is each year to go back and look at the revenue and compare them to the projected rates and make sure that they match. I know I haven't run out of time, but I have one more protest.
Make it quick.
Okay, it's the demand management rate. Okay, we've been requested numerous times to reduce, and now we're being penalized for it. We're being penalized for doing the right thing, what we've been requested to do and incentivized to do, and in some cases for doing what we were forced to do. It's bad economic policy. You're violating the supply and demand principles. When the demand goes down, the price should go down. It shouldn't go up. So what happens is it encourages water wasting and discourages future water conservation projects. It sends the wrong message. So my specific request is that we do away with these demand management rates.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
The next 3 speakers are Charles Seward, followed by Mark Klein, followed by Pam Wood, and then Jean Stone is our last speaker. And if you all could line up. First speaker is Mr. Seward.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. I'm here to protest not only the water rates, but I was able to look up a few of your high-priced folks that work for the utilities. I looked up Mr. Rubinoff, who makes $186,000 a year, and Mr. Brothman, making $150,000 a year. So I find your salaries are a little bit out of proportion to where they should be. I looked at other cities, and they're well above other cities. My second point is this decoupling. I have a real problem with that. I thought decoupling meant, or at least my interpretation of that, is that we pay for water from the Department of Water, Metropolitan Water District, okay? And there is some correlation to what we then pay. But with this decoupling, there is no, they could charge us a fee, but we don't have to follow that fee. We can go off and we can add whatever we want to that fee. That's what I saw. Again, I'm sure that next year we'll be back here again and you'll be wanting to raise the sewer rates. Okay? You know, I see the plan is that we will do this one this year. Next year we'll raise the sewer rates. And like others, I'm on Social Security also, and I don't get the, I see the 12% is not a realistic number if you look at the numbers and the figures that are there. So I would request that you look at it again. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Klein. I own a couple of pieces of property in San Clemente, a couple of residential pieces of property. I'm also president of the Del Cabo Homeowners Association, and I'm here to protest the water rate increase, primarily just due to the magnitude of the increase. When I went through and I looked at the notice, and I calculated over the 5-year period, a 1-inch meter goes up almost 57%, a 1.5-inch meter goes up almost 72.3%, the 2-inch up almost 74%, 3-inch meter up 85%, 4-inch meter up almost 116%, and a 6-inch meter is up almost 129%. That's over the 5-year period, and those are just the fixed charge rate increase. There is additional increases on the pass-through charge. Again, I just think that is unbelievably exorbitant. In the notice, nowhere did I read that we've looked at cutting costs, cutting overhead in the private sector. When this type of thing happens, you normally cut costs. And I do understand the fixed overhead portion of the water district's problem. I mean, they do have a lot of fixed charges, or fixed costs, but we do need to look at cost decreases. And also, have we done anything to negotiate water rates with our supplier? If we're being penalized for using less water, and we have a couple good years of rain, if we all start using twice the water, we're going to cut our rates in half. Probably not. But it just seems like these rates are awfully high when you look over a 5-year period. Thank you.
Last speaker behind Ms. Wood is Jean Stone.
Hi. The gentleman in front of me basically said most of what I wanted to say, but I did want to say just a couple of other things. When we received the notice, what I was surprised at was that it's only telling one side of the story. It's not telling the expense side, so that people can read this and go, oh, okay, I can see the costs and where they're going. But when you get this, it's very confusing to me, who's in finance, that you don't tell, or the whole complete story is not being told. The second thing is, this is based, as far as I'm concerned, on the drought getting worse, going out for 5 years. But what happens if we get a lot of rain, and then this is approved, so we have 5 years of where the water is going to be, the water charges are going to be increased, but is there anything to say, is there anything going to be put in that if the drought isn't as bad, or, we get more rain than expected, that these price increases will be stopped? or there will be something implemented that will, change them if circumstances do change that are more favorable. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you. My name's Gene Stone. As some of you know, I represent Residents Organized for a Safe Environment. And Bill and the others here have hit all the really major points, but so I want to reiterate a couple of things and introduce maybe one new item. In 1952, the United Nations made water a human right, and that was signed on by all the countries unanimously that were part of the United Nations at that time. So to raise water rates to these exorbitant prices, I want to register my protest for that. As someone has already pointed out, we've been asked, and the city has done a good job during the drought, but of conserving water. My HOA is part of this HOA, and there's a lot of water waste going on. I would much prefer the city to continue its efforts to conserve water, because although we were lucky last year to have one good year of rain, there's no guarantee, as we all know. So we live in a desert here, and we should remind ourselves that more and more and more, and we should continue our good efforts that we've made to conserve water, and instead of raising the price on water. I understand that that's one way during a drought that might be effective, but for the seniors, I'm one of those as well, we really can't afford such water rates. And I would just remind us of the human quality for everything. All living things need water, and we have the right to it at a decent and fair price. Thank you very much.
I'm going to close the public hearing. Have staff come back up.
And I would just like to announce that the city received 21 written protests. In addition to that, the city received a letter, 2 letters actually, from persons purporting to represent the Reserve Maintenance Corporation, 24 accounts, as well as Rancho San Clemente Community Master Association, 20 accounts.
Go ahead, if you have.
Hey, Mayor, there were a whole bunch of questions that different
Yeah.
folks asked. I think you probably wrote them down, I wrote them down, I think we all wrote them down. Eric, do you feel comfortable taking a stab at some of those, or what's your?
Some maybe yes, some of them no. I mean, I'd have to look at their numbers and review the data to really come back with an educated answer.
Let's do the following. We'll take a shot at some of the questions. I think at the very least, we should have, as a part of the record, many of the questions people posed included for the record as FAQs on the website.
Correct.
So that people can ask the questions about, for example, the first question, because I mean, speaking, we're residents and we're elected officials, I hate my water bill. It has been incredibly high for the past few years with all these different things, and I get exactly why folks are not happy about this. I also have on the other side of the coin, I've also seen the history behind why we're at this point. The threats of litigation. Not a lot of you folks have seen those, but they've happened basically every other month for the past 4 years from different members of our community that threaten to sue us over our water rates and the inequities. This solves a lot of those inequities. That's why we're making these movements. And one of the things there's a lot of context, and so we're grappling with both sides of it. Let's go ahead and get to the questions before I start, getting on my high horse and, and saying dumb things. There was a question about why we can't create other classes, and this may be something for Carollo to take on, but I would certainly like to know, for example, there was a proposal by Kathleen that said, why can we create a 5th customer class for HOAs? That is very sensitive, because when we create additional classes, we open ourselves up to challenges on the structure. So I'll just speak for you on that one, that ultimately legally, that's incredibly problematic. But we will have Corolla maybe write an FAQ as to why it is having additional classes may be problematic. Ultimately, our rates, so there's a few things that I could say definitively. They have to be legally defensible. We have to be able to defend them, and they also, we can't make a profit, right? What water costs us, we have to, that's what we can charge. We can't make a profit off of water. In many ways, actually, and Gene is probably, where are you, Gene? Are very right about that. In some ways, the government has made it so that water is effectively something that, you know, our residents just get. And all we can do is charge them exactly what it costs us. One of the questions said is, why do we have demand management rates? Can you answer that one?
So I'm going to have Dave Riebensdorf come up and address that one.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other questions that come up might be myself, maybe Tom Rendina, and we also
We'll do a
have
little bit of a
Corolla.
team effort?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay.
And I should just mention that the protests that I cited do not represent a majority protest out of the city. 17,672 active water customers.
Yeah, it's not a majority, but a lot of folks do have questions, you know. That's absolutely true. Dave, if you wouldn't mind taking a crack at why
Dave
we're having-
Riebensdorf, Utility Director. Demand management rates were proposed and recommended basically to be used in the next drought when that might happen sometime in the future. And really the challenge behind that is bringing in enough revenue when our customers are required to cut back. In this last go-around, customers required to cut back 24%. So it had major impacts on our revenue that are fairly long-lasting. So the point behind demand management is our customers, if they're required to cut back again 24%, then what would potentially be implemented is a demand management rate. So it would be a slight increase to the customer's bill, so that way we would still generate enough revenue while water use is fairly low, and then that would help us to keep from having to raise rates as we're coming out of the drought on the back end.
So would it be correct to say that if water rates, say we're at 75% of capacity or at 125% of capacity, most of our costs stay fairly static in that, right? They don't move to 75% and then we get 25% more money when everyone's using water, right? Our costs are fairly fixed along the board, right?
So over the last 10 years, we've seen our water use range from over 12,000 acre feet in 1 year to below 8,000 acre feet in a year. So we've seen significant changes. Part of our challenge is about 43% of our costs are fixed. So we have 230 miles of pipelines, pump stations, reservoirs, thousands of valves, fire hydrants. We have to order water. So whether a drop of water is used within the system or not, that infrastructure needs to be maintained. So that's one of the big challenges. And right now, on our fixed component, we're only recovering about 17% of those costs. So that's one of the big challenges, why we lose so much revenue in those years when very little water is used. And we're also mandated by the state to have long-term cutbacks and to reduce our water use by 20% by year 2020.
Maybe you can also answer at this point, what are decoupling? Maybe for the folks that asked about what that means, it is a tough term to grab a hold of. What does it mean to decouple rates?
I'm going to turn that over to Pierce with Corolla.
Okay.
Don't go farther.
Good evening, Pierce Rawson with Corolla Engineers. So the decoupling, or in this case, our pass-through charge, is really just to separate the costs that are the cities and the costs that are incurred from importing water. So we purchase 100%, almost 100% of our water supply. So the thought is, as Metropolitan increases their cost of water, then that can be separately identified and separately passed through. When the city needs to increase their costs, that can be separately identified and that can be increased as well. So this just adds greater transparency. They know if it's a city cost that's going up.
We can't blame it on the Met if our costs go up and be like, well, it's just water went up, right? We got our costs. What happens if water rates go down?
So same thing. So there's a formula that's defined in the Prop 218 notice. And so the formula is the total cost of purchased water divided by our forecasted sales. So should the water get cheaper, Should we find alternative sources of supply that take us off more expensive met water, then that rate can separately go down.
Because it's decoupled, it would just simply transfer.
Exactly, it's 1-for-1 in that case.
And then we also wouldn't have the water rate discussion every 3 years, and it just will continue like that. I mean, we have our costs still, right? But in terms of decoupling, we just are passing through what we get.
Exactly. It really takes the guesswork out of trying to figure out what Metropolitan's going to do. As we're defining 5 years' worth of rates, that takes the onus off of us and says, okay, we can identify the exact cost of water as it comes in, so we're not being over collecting revenue based on a faulty assumption, in the first year of the assumption.
I've asked a ton of questions. Maybe you guys would like to throw in. I've got a bunch more, but I think you probably wrote down the same ones, and I'm taking too much oxygen.
Doesn't have any more.
So, let's see, I wanted to speak to Ms. Wood's observation that we don't tell the expense side, and I like the idea very much of putting FAQs on the website, and I shared your concern. When we got the staff report, it's a little bit misleading. It says, yes, water operating fund revenues will increase by an estimated $997,000, and it implies financial gain that in fact is not at all true. And so could you talk about the importance of keeping our position neutral financially?
Yeah, and so I'll just tee it up in terms of the cost of service process, and then Dave can speak to the specifics. The entire cost of service is really to identify what the costs are and then to align revenues with those costs. And we can be off any given year in terms of over collecting in year one because we're going to draw down those reserves in year two. We've got a big capital program. So what we really try to do is smooth out the increases. And so part of the recommendations that Eric mentioned in terms of fixed cost recovery, that's why the fixed cost is going up so much over the next 5 years, is because we're shifting more of our revenue towards one piece in terms of that cost recovery rather than just the variable rate. And so the specifics of the expenditures, Dave can speak.
That last sentence, could you say that in a way that I could understand it?
Well, or you have that wonderful bar chart
You guys are
in your
super
presentation.
smart, but I am not that smart. So maybe you could say just that last part,
Yeah, so there's a slide.
Yeah, the
if that
famous
can be-
bar chart.
Yes, I love bar charts.
Yeah.
Number 7,
Or 8, maybe?
8.
Of course, it's always embarrassing when 90% of the people listening said, I completely understood what they were saying. Why didn't you get it? So I'm exposing myself a little bit here, but sometimes that last sentence I think was important. I really wanted to understand it completely.
Next one, maybe? Maybe it's not in here.
Oh, no.
So the bar chart that she's referencing is from a previous presentation. What we really focused on was, and Dave spoke to this previously, is our expenses are largely fixed. And so right now our existing revenue is not matching how our expenditures are incurred. We're collecting far less revenue from our fixed charges than we expend in fixed costs. And so we looked at alternatives saying, should we not have demand management rates? We could get rid of demand management rates if we went 1-for-1. So if we had 100% fixed cost recovery, then it would be straight water pass through, and we would collect 100% of our costs on the demand charge or on the meter charge. The challenge with that is before you use a drop of water, your fixed cost goes up. And so those percentages that they're talking about in terms of the 5/8 inch meter, the 3/4 inch meter goes up this way. We're only shifting a small portion of our costs from 23%, 25% up gradually over the next 5 years to, I believe, 32% fixed cost recovery. So we're not going the full way. There's still about 20% of our revenue.
So the meter charges are the fixed cost recovery for the fixed costs in our system?
Yes.
So before a drop water comes in, we have to cover 41% of the costs.
Yes.
And so by charging that on the meters, we get to low 30s?
Low 30s.
Low 30s.
Mhm.
And then the balance is made up in?
The variable rate.
Variable rate.
And so this is why we still have the demand rates, because there is still a portion of our fixed costs that end up in that variable portion. So should 20% demand cutbacks occur, then we are losing that chunk of revenue.
Yeah.
Or because the costs remain, the expenditures don't. And so the thought behind the demand management rates were really to make it in such a way that we can have greater flexibility, just another tool in the toolbox, if you will, that says, let's not overly increase the fixed charge, but should we need it, we've got this tool.
So
but
the
it's-
intent of the demand management is so that we're not increasing those meter rates to that fixed cost and just, it's a big sticker shock. And so the function of demand rates are designed to lower that sticker shock of fixed charges.
Exactly. It's greater flexibility in the way our customers use the water, but it still allows that cost recovery should another drought occur.
Okay, so back to the question about the expense side. So in the FAQs, can you find something that shows here's what the revenue looks like, here's where it breaks down into fixed, variable, and so forth? And then building on that, Mr. Rhodes talked about the numbers shaking hands, and he asked for Corolla to repeat the analysis to reconcile the 21% versus 12% discrepancy. So were you back there running that analysis?
I did glance at the page 20 as he referred to, and I believe the difference is we're looking at a cash flow number versus the total forecasted rate revenue. I do want to assure everyone that we do a revenue check. We do make sure they shake hands. So exactly as he mentioned, we take the forecasted demands times the proposed rates and make sure that checks with what we're proposing in our revenues. So it's likely just looking at the calling a spade and making sure we're all looking at the same thing. But the revenue check is there, and if we just look at the overall revenue increase, it's probably just looking at the cash flow versus the total rate recovery.
Well, what I was going to suggest, if it's amenable with staff, to if you would meet separately and see what the difference is in the analyses, because clearly you have the engineering training, clearly you have been living and breathing this. So if staff would be amenable to that, maybe you could just have an hour or half an hour. Great.
Okay. You guys, you had a lot of the ones that I had written down. The only comment that I would like to make is, one of the comments was that we don't tell the entire story on the expenses. And we hear it in every budget cycle. We know, and almost every month, we have something that we're replacing in a lift station, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say a lift station, but a water pump station or something. We know what the costs are, and we see that. The other thing that we see, and we know for a fact, is that our employees are not overpaid. We watch that very carefully. We did a employee salary study. We just went through all that. It's part of our long-term financial plan, and everybody could come in and be part of that every single year. One of the problems we have is that we pay all the people that we have to train to run all of our treatment plants and things like that. We lose them to the private water companies who pay even more money to them. So I think these rates, I don't think, are a correlation to we're overpaying our employees. And our city tends to run very lean on a lot of our expenses.
And, this kind of echoes what Councilmember Brown had brought up when we had brought forward different studies as it related to the water study, is the perception of us, the city, being excessive in our expenditures and our salaries, et cetera. And to your point, yes, we do not pay on the high end for utility workers. We have a hard time retaining utility workers because they want to go work for Irvine Ranch Water District or other districts where they can make more money. And we've taken a position of we have to pay in the middle, as we do with all of our positions in the city of San Clemente. And so if that means in many cases for Dave in the utility yard, retention might be 2 to 3 years for an employee, and then they leave and we have to start over again with the learning curve. To your point, we have the long-term financial plan that we do every year. We're just about ready to kick that off again. It's a 5-year financial forecast that looks at all of our funds as well as our budget. I would recommend anyone to go to our transparency page and see the CAFRs that we have over 5 years of CAFRs, our budgets, our long-term financial plans. And if we're not putting some number out there, I would welcome that suggestion because I would do it in a heartbeat. But we pride ourselves in making it very transparent to the public. I can't agree to any more than Councilmember Brown. These rates are high and they are expensive. I live in an association with 4 associations that I pay for. So it's a burden, especially if you're on a fixed income. And this is something that the council, we weighed up very heavily on when we deliberated on this. We conducted a number of public workshops that unfortunately were lowly attended. But people have lives. They don't have time to go to a water rate study when there's other things in their life that are demanding as well. And so, yes, we could definitely improve our FAQs to put our expenses out there so it's very clear. We'll indicate, like you indicated before, Mayor, we will meet with the individual to go over his scenario versus our scenario with Carollo Engineering. So yes.
So I think some of the questions that came out, and Kathy just alluded this wonderfully, the mayor did, there's this resounding overarching thing. It's like, are we being efficient, right? Or have we cut costs as much as we can? That's really philosophically important, that the idea that we're raising rates to pay for some opulent lifestyle. I mean, it's important to the residents. It's also important in this council. We don't get salaries. I mean, we get a salary. It's $400 a month, but it's something where we're also sensitive to it. The stories of like the $180,000 engineer, things like that. Well, there's. I think it's important to understand the context on these things, and I won't sit here defending individual salaries because I think that's inappropriate for me to do, but I will say is that in the 7 years that I've been doing this, and Lori could probably say the same, we watched the pocketbook so closely, like on hiring, staffing, and we don't go crazy. We've never gone crazy. As a matter of fact, we're always a little bit disappointed because we lose a lot of folks. One thing I'll also say that is a little bit tricky that some cities do that we really try not to do is that what some cities will do is in an effort to try and curry political favor, they don't track their water rates very closely. They don't increase them, and what they do is they leave maintenance obligations out there. They don't do a lot of replacements, and when something really bad happens, they go out and borrow a bunch of money to pay for it, and then say to the users, oh dear, we got ourselves in trouble. We need to go out and borrow money to pay for these improvements. And then you pay 20% when you have to raise the bond. So when you borrow $100 million, you're only getting 80, and then that costs money, and then you got to pay back the debt and interest. And so as a city, and you'll see it in our financial plan, we pay for things ahead of time. We're that family that buys a car by saving for it first and then buying it with cash. So a lot of the time, these front-end rates are painful and these increases are painful, but we're not going to go out and raise $20 million in bonds to pay for sewer replacement or for water replacement in these systems because we've chosen to take a fiscal plan like a responsible household would, that we pay cash. We don't borrow, we don't do interest. How much debt do we actually have as a city to like $400,000 or something?
It's a minimal amount of
like
debt that the city carries.
Anyway, I think that's a really important question. Like, people are out there asking, are you guys being efficient? Who's getting all the money? Believe me, this is not something I think we really want to do, but we know that we had to do it,
And to the point, the council did give direction to the staff when we got direction on what rate structure to go to incorporate an efficiency study in the long-term financial plan that will be landing in February of 2018. So we will be looking at the utility division, or excuse me, the utility department, as it relates to efficiencies to make sure that we're staffed correctly or other efficiencies that could be gained. So those will be brought forward to the public and the council as part of the long-term financial plan workshop.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to thank everyone that came out tonight. This is so hard for us. And, to the first speaker, we're having rate increases. I don't know if you felt it at the gas pump yet, but that went up 12 cents a gallon this week. And we do, as Councilmember Brown mentioned, pride ourselves in being stewards of your money. So this is a very balanced, very thorough, very comprehensive initiative by Carollo in partnership with city staff, and I thank you for that. And it's very principled policy, which I think is something to be appreciated and valued. So with that, we've already opened and closed the public hearing. We've heard the tally protests, and if no majority protest exists, I move that we introduce, since no majority protest exists, I move that we introduce ordinance 1647 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, amending section 13.04.220 subsections A through D and adding subsection E of the San Clemente Municipal Code relating to water rates.
Motion by Doncheck, second by
Second.
Brown. All in favor? Passes 3-0.
If I may make one more request, there's a lot of folks out with questions, and I'm assuming we have, I don't know, I should know the answer to this. Do we have, if people wanted to submit questions for answers, do they just do through the water page, or do they just?
Correct.
Okay, they
So
do.
they go to the water page, and there'll be an email and a phone number they can submit their questions.
So I recommend folks do that. For everyone else who is here that wants an answer to your question, if you want to, either if you didn't submit a card, if you want to leave your email address or your name on a blue card for Eric or up here, then we can email back, at least email back some of his FAQs or link us to where they're going to be posted. I think it's really important that you folks get answers to your questions. I think they're all good questions, and I don't think the conversation ends here. It's going to be ongoing.
Correct. Absolutely. And we will be coming back every year just to clarify on our 5-year study. So this will come back in front of the council every year, and we'll communicate the rates as we move forward.
Okay. I think that's going to be great. And Mr. Rhodes, are you going to provide a card? I saw you get that out. Thank you very much. Okay. I saved your number, but I saw that you were getting a card out. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Oh, I've got a...
Oral Communications Part 2, I don't have any cards.
Okay.
City Manager.
I have something.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to announce that we're going to be hosting a town hall meeting for Shorecliff's residents. We're going to be providing an update and overview of the Via Valena storm drain project on Monday, November 13th, 6 to 7 p.m. At the Community Center Auditorium. That's all.
City Attorney,
I have nothing more tonight, thank you.
council members.
I just have an OCTA story to share very quickly. I had the privilege as being on the executive committee of OCTA to meet with our counterparts in Los Angeles, hosted by Mayor Garcetti last week. And the themes were transportation issues as they cross county lines, primarily at the north end of Orange County, but also the Olympics, because there will be 3 Olympic venues in Orange County. And so Mayor Garcetti is working to put together these different committees to make sure that Orange County and access to Orange County happens smoothly. So it was really gratifying, and also of interest was that SCAG participated, and there was a time not too long ago where SCAG might not have been invited to things like this, and so it's really wonderful to see the multi-county orientation happening. And the last thing is Mayor Garcetti has a transportation program called 28 by 28, and he's got 28 transportation projects he's committed to having complete by the 2028 Olympics. So that was kind of exciting to hear about, and it's only 10 years away.
I do have one thing. We're working on it right now, but on the 28th of November, Dr. Neil Driscoll, who completed the seismic studies for Southern California Edison, has offered and accepted for him to come and present to the city of San Clemente, any interested residents, the results of that study and how it would affect San Clemente. And so most of the seismic studies were about how it would affect San Onofre and about, the implications, but there are larger questions as to how, if something like that did happen, how it would affect the city of San Clemente. And so he's offered to, because of the cities that are closest to ours in Oceanside, to come and present those results, not related to songs, but related to how it would affect the city of San Clemente. Now the trick is that, because we're hosting it, is that only 2 members of the city council can attend. If 3 were to attend, it would become a city council meeting. And it's going to be a 45-minute presentation with Q&A, so it didn't really fit very well for a city council meeting. So I will probably, I've already heard the study as it was presented as songs, but it would be a perfect thing for folks interested in public safety, transportation, CERT, our police, fire, and residents who may just be interested in the implications of that. So it's going to be held here in the City Council chambers on the 28th of November. I guess Veronica will probably be coordinating for the council to ensure that those invited can attend. On the 28th of November, was it 7 p.m.? Was it 6? I think it may have been 6. It was a Tuesday. It's the 4th Tuesday. It's the 4th Tuesday, and I believe it's going to be 6 p.m. We don't know. We don't know. But it'll be recorded, and there'll be Q&A, and so for those who can't attend, then I'll obviously not be there. But for those who aren't able to attend, they can review the video after the fact. I certainly would encourage our police and fire and CERT and some of the folks who would be very plugged in on that. And it's probably one of the most, if not the most exhaustive study done in the past decade regarding all of the seismic implications of where we're sitting. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be great. I'll be watching from home. Are we going to be able to broadcast that, or is it probably recorded? It'll be recorded, so we'll be able to watch at home. So I'd like to invite members of the public to come and attend. I think it would be great. We just had the great shakeout, so the timing couldn't be better.
That's also been a question that San Clemente residents have been debating for a long time. What are the implications? So it's great, and I hope that's well attended. I have a couple of announcements. Can we start with the flu clinic? I think our city manager arranged this. Mission Heritage Medical Group is going to be doing a free flu clinic. It's going to be this Saturday, November 11th, from 9 to noon. To get a flu shot, you must be 12 years or older. There is no appointment necessary, but it is only until supplies last. So get there early, and once they're out of the flu shots, that will be over. But that is a free flu clinic, so please take advantage of that. If you don't know where Mission Heritage is, Villa Suerte, it's in the Talega Plaza next to Ballpark Pizza and Inca Mama's restaurant, so if that gives you a reference. The second announcement I would like to make is on our marine monument at Park Semper Fi last Saturday. Yes, was it Saturday or Sunday? Saturday, thank you. We celebrated Veterans Day early, and we also honored our adopted unit, the 2-4 Marines, the Magnificent Bastards, with a plaque in the Park Semper Fi. We thought that they should be present and have a plaque. Their plaque says second to none, which we believe our regiment is, and so I think there's another picture from that. That is the Lieutenant Colonel and Wayne Eggleston and Colonel Navarre, who used to be with the 1st Marine Regiment, Stuart Navarre, and the chaplain. And then I think that is his sergeant major next to him. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was a wonderful event, and they were very proud to have that plaque. And I think it was in, I think the Chamber of Commerce went in on that because they helped unveil it. The other thing that I just want to say is San Clemente had not just one parade last week, but 2. We had the Red Ribbon Parade, but also because Friday was homecoming, we had the homecoming parade, and that was well attended and fun. And what was really nice is they gave a red rose out to every princess that was there in the court, and then they also gave one to me, being the mayor, so I was really appreciative of that, and I'd like to say thank you. But that's all my announcements. Please take advantage of the flu clinic, because that is a really wonderful thing. And I really appreciate Mission and Mission Heritage Medical Group for stepping up to do that.
Yes. 2 things real quick. The tree issue, did we ever get any results on removing the pines and the eucalyptus along the freeway? Where did we stand on that one? Do you remember? I just remember that.
It's complicated. I've been talking to Chris about it. There was never any council direction that we could find in the record as to how it was supposed to be landscaped. We've been talking to Caltrans about a remedy for it, and those eucalyptus trees that are out there and the pine trees. And they're willing to remove the trees and plant something else at our cost. And we're looking at about a $70,000 project to remove them and replace them with something else on the tree palette.
Is there a timing issue on that, or when is it that it has to be done?
There's not a timing issue per se. The access will always be there to do something. It's not, the freeway project is wrapping up, but it's not tied to that necessarily. It's something that we can consider, but it's probably a $75,000 between the removal costs and the planting of the new trees.
Can we include that in our long-term financial plan discussions?
Sure.
We ought to chat about that in the context of the budget.
Okay.
Maybe we can get a group to fundraise for that.
Probably some residents would be pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Donate their trees, or, okay, thank you, appreciate that. And then there was a video that was presented to the Orange County Fire Authority Board recently of the canyon fire that we had up, and I thought this was very interesting to watch. It was a great presentation, but it was also something that was that I thought was worth sharing with the council. It's fine. It's so well organized. My goodness. Yeah, there we go. There's the MP. Oh, the yeah, it would be them. Thanks for queuing that up. We're grateful to the firefighters for the good work there. We had a chance to sample their work firsthand a few months ago when we had the fires that were on the south borders of San Clemente, of which we also were gratefully escaped with minimal damage. So we're grateful for their efforts, and just so this council is aware, also the board voted to look into the circumstances regarding that fire and do an internal review just to make sure that our response was accurate and not accurate, was what it was supposed to be. But we're hopeful that, if anything, there'll always be continuous improvement, that we'll be able to have our fire authority respond to these types of things, which with these wet years followed by a dry year is probably going to be something very common. So anyway, thank you.
I need a motion for adjournment. Okay. I move we adjourn to the next regular city council meeting, which will be held on November 21st, 2017, in the council chambers located at 100 Avenida Presidio, San Clemente, California. Closed session items will be considered at 5:00 p.m. The regular business meeting will take place at 6:00 p.m. Second. Motion by Ward, second by Donchek. All in favor? Passes 3-0.